Good evening, everyone. Erev Tov lechulam. Welcome to the last day, the last interview after the last concert of the Polish Jazz Festival in Tel Aviv, first edition, online edition. And we were very lucky to have Kuba Wiecek trio with us as a closing concert. So first of all, guys, congratulations on your concert. It was really, really good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting us.
And for Jewish audience, I just want to once again say Happy New Year, Happy Jewish New Year. May this next year be much more in everything than this year, which was a waste of time, basically. Now, let's start. I told you guys that tomorrow we're going into a second lockdown here in Israel. And I was wondering, during your lockdown a few months ago, what did you do? How did you spend your time during those pandemic days?
For me, for a long time, I had some things I wanted to learn or spend some time with that I never had time for it because, before it was always like being on tour because we as a trio, we used to play quite a lot, but also all of us, we are playing with many different bands. So, usually when the situation is normal, we are just on tour all the time. So it was just very unusual to be at home. So, for example, for me, I could really start working on my electronic music, just working at home in my studio, recording some instruments, and just do some completely new things for me.
Yeah, for me, it was at the beginning of lockdown. I was practicing quite a lot things because normally I'm whole year I'm teaching, I'm touring, I play with different bands, so I had much more time to practice. And then in April we started a new project with trio and quite famous vocalists. It was Kuba's music, so we started to rehearse and we tried some new things.
Yeah.
For me, it was basically a chance to spend more time with my family because I am crazy busy during the whole year when the situation was steady with the concerts. So it was a nice time for my family that I was home practically 3 months for the whole time. So it was great.
It was a good time, actually.
Yeah,
we spent with our girlfriends, wives, and we could, sharing time, cook something, watch some films, etc., etc. So there was. I bought a bike, so I could ride a bike a lot in last. 2 months, so it was good time, I could say.
But didn't you regret all the tours that you must have missed, all the concerts that were canceled?
For me, I was at this point where I was really calm, really. Like I was actually at the peak of my, I don't know how to say this, like resistance. Like, I was thinking of when will the time come when I will be finally at home, just spend time with my girlfriend and just work on some music finally. Because when we are on tour, it's quite it's hard to stay with your routines and hard to, stay healthy. And actually, in the beginning, I was quite enthusiastic about all this time coming.
Right. So, Kuba, you mentioned here, and of course, we get the sense of it in some of the title of the songs in the concert. You mentioned about your latest, let's say, latest fascination about electronic music. Tell us a little bit about that.
When we recorded our first album, that was completely acoustic. But then we started touring with it, and we have been changing a lot. I asked me how to bring electric bass. He had some effects. Then I bought some synthesizers in New York that I started using on the concerts, and I was getting like more and more into this. Then Łukasz bought SPDSX, which is like electronic drums, so some kind of pads, and that was everything was like pushing us to go further. Also the second album, Multitasking, we went quite deep with production. We did some like we just did some stuff not only like acoustically, but we added some production to it. And I was like really listening to all of electronic music, like like Flying Lotus, some modern hip hop, or I don't know, like Radiohead, Tame Impala, and that was really inspiring me to just. I mean, it was just very inspiring for me when I was composing music. So, and I always was thinking that maybe I could finally learn how to use this new instrument, which was computer, to do some more, because with your instrument you can really do a lot, but there are some limitations at some point. When it comes to like producing music with a computer, you can just do whatever. And actually, when you combine both of those, the results are very interesting. So I was always very excited about learning how to use my computer as well as I could use my saxophone.
What does the audience that was getting used to to acoustic music on the first album, some of the second album, what's the reaction of your fans or the people who come to your concerts?
I think they were always getting used to it, because every time some people heard us, they said that this music and this band is changing so much. We all, as a band, we have all like changed our sound for the last 5 years, our way of thinking of music and playing music. So like one of the things about our band is that it's changing so much. Like everybody is picking up new instruments, new inspirations, and it's, I think, kind of very important for the band.
When we talked earlier, you mentioned that you went to stay in Berlin for a couple of months before the lockdown. And my question is, I mean, basically, I understand it to get deeper into electronic music, right? And my question is, why do you need to move there? I mean, here today with the internet, with YouTube, etc. Why do you need to go physically to go and stay in another country, in another city, in order to learn?
For me, it was also about just changing the environment, because when I was in Warsaw, I have all my friends here, all the musicians that I play with. So it's all the time like a situation like let's go to a jam session together, let's play, let's have a session, let's just do some music. And I wanted to have some kind of break from jazz music, and Berlin is quite nice, because it's like it's kind of like a New York in Europe. It's like so many events happening all the time, and also from all the genres, not only like jazz but also electronic music and like all the alternative stuff. So it was quite inspiring to just go there. And also actually always dreamed to go to Berlin after I was finished with my studies in Copenhagen. I was supposed to go there, but then we started this band, and I decided to go to Warsaw. But I always had this dream to live in Berlin for some time.
Right.
Like many musicians, even from like jazz environment, who inspire me from a modern world, they are from Berlin. They live there, and very many interesting things are happening there.
So maybe it's a little similar to what's happening in Israel in with jazz musicians. Most of them want to move to New York, for a couple of years, not a couple of months actually. Just to absorb, not necessarily to study there. Of course, as many of them do, but just to play with musicians that come from all over the world and learn from the maestros that are playing there, etc. Is it something similar in the electronic world with Berlin as a capital?
Yeah, I think not only with like electronic music, but with like everything. It's Berlin is bringing more and more people. It's like everybody from the whole Europe is moving there.
I think for every musician, it's good to go somewhere for some time, to spend time with different musicians and to hear what's going on in the musicians' world. So it's always good to change environment
In perspective.
to develop ourselves.
And also, in Berlin, it's a little bit like New York. Like musicians are really all into music. Like music is a really huge thing for them. You can really play a lot just in Berlin. Just there's a lot of small gigs. You can just play with all those musicians all the time. There are new people coming to the city, so you can also get to know a lot of people. And when it comes to being a jazz musician, it's quite important to have those kind of networking and just not knowing a lot of people.
Right. Now, since you started like getting more and more into electronic music, my next question is when is the music stop being jazz and start being electronic music?
For me, like jazz is mostly about like a philosophy, or for like being open for new things, being open for like the opposite of perfection. I would say is very close. What definition of jazz for me is like looking for new places, and I would say electronic music is just what I think when I have some sounds in my mind. But also with the jazz, I don't know what nowadays all the genres are crossing with each other, and it's hard to define nowadays. I don't know, how do you feel?
I also feel that there was a thing in jazz called fusion, which started in 60s and 70s, and now for me it's the new fusion music. Mixing electronica with jazz music is the new fusion of the today, the new jazz fusion of today. So yeah, that's the philosophy for me right now.
And I think it's becoming a new thing. Like in a couple of years, I think like many people will have to learn all those new instruments, have to get to know a little bit into production, because it will be quite useful and quite a popular thing, as learning how to play rhythms or harmonies. Like getting a little bit how into like producing is, I think, quite something quite necessary in the future.
Right. In the intro of your first song, was it Sugar Boost, right? One of the audience commented that it sounded very Jewish, the intro. And later on, you can sense some like Ashkenazi, like Eastern European or Central European Jewish music in your playing. So my question is it so, or is it just Polish influences?
I think it's all close. Like I'm very much inspired by like Jewish music or like Balkan music, which is also like I would say quite close to it, and I don't know, just quite not natural for me. I was always very much into like folk music from different parts of the world, and it's just fun to play with those sounds, and also a way how to get maybe out of the jazz scales, and I don't know.
And also, you know, the Jewish culture was a big part of Polish life, you know, for years. So it's a natural thing for us to play that kind of sounds, I think.
You know, we are in Kazimierz right now, and here like I don't know if maybe every second place, but there is like live Jewish music in very many places here. So it's a very, you know, very big thing for us.
And Kuba, when you play, I mean, I get reminiscence of the Tristanas school, like Lenny, like Lee Kunitz or Warren Marsh, etc. And that's actually not very regular today, isn't it?
I think actually since like some years, for example, in New York, it really became a big thing. Like more and more like saxophone players were more into like Warren Marsh or Lee Konitz instead of being into like, I don't know, Cannonball. I don't know where it comes from, but like, for example, Mark Turner, the saxophone player, he was very like a big big person for like a lot of musicians. He really inspired the generation. And for me, there was this young saxophone player from Holland called Ben van Gelder that I discovered when I was like, it was like 10 years ago or something. And he was very much into like Mark Turner, but on alto saxophone. That was a huge inspiration for me. And also, I just think that, I don't know, Lenny Tristano is really like a very modern way of thinking of, you know, just phrasing or just melodies his ideas, the rhythmic ideas are very, you know, modern and interesting. It's really interesting to, you know, to listen to this music and somehow try to be inspired by this. What do you think about Lenny Tristano?
Yeah, Tristano was way ahead of his time. So it's always inspiring to hear that kind of playing.
Another thing that I noticed when dealing with at least modern Polish jazz bands is that they don't play standards. You guys don't play standards. Not, I mean, is it a thing in Poland or why not?
I think the younger generation is going, you know, away from playing standards, but our like little bit older guys like me or Łukasz still plays standards, and we come from this school. But Kuba actually also we started playing standards actually. For first time we played together was only standards, so we also value this school of playing just straight ahead jazz. This is the basis of everything for us, I think. And then we explore different things based on that kind of knowledge. But you know, I enjoy playing standards. You know, it's a thing that I love really, and all of us do, I think.
Yeah, I mean, standards was the thing that really connected us. You know, before I used to live in Denmark, where actually in Copenhagen, it's a huge, you know, like this traditional jazz is a huge thing, and actually there, all the young musicians are very much into jazz tradition. For example, in Poland, when you ask a young drummer about his influences, it will be like, you know, Chris Dave, Eric Harland, and in Denmark, it will be like, you know, Max Roach, Phil Jones, or Elvin Jones, or it's really like a very different thing there. And I really fell in love with this kind of music there. And I really wanted to have something like this in Poland because I couldn't really experience this amongst like my generation. So I really wanted to play this kind of music somewhere here. And once, like 5 years before we started the band, I went to this concert of this amazing Polish trumpet player Piotr Wojtasik, and he was playing with Michał and Łukasz, and they were playing music that was very much inspired by like jazz. And I really felt that if I would like to play a standard, I really have to play with those guys. And that was actually the reason that we played for the first time and did our first tours.
So can we expect in the future maybe an album, a standard album or something like that?
For sure, but I have this concept, but maybe I shouldn't tell this because somebody will do it ahead of us. That I would love to arrange standards, that there is album with standards, but with no improvisation. Just, rearranged in such a way that there's no improvisation. That's that's also something I would like to do in the future.
Okay,
we're looking forward.
Yeah, we look forward to it here as well. And this is a I don't know, probably a question that it's difficult to answer. But do you think that the fact that you're from Poland and like brought up in Poland changes your music? I mean, had you been brought up in Copenhagen, for example, or in Berlin, do you think your music was different?
For sure. Like it always happened to me or like some of my friends when we played on a jam session that somehow as a Polish people, we have a very strong sense of melody. It's very different from maybe, I don't know, from what I experienced from young people from Denmark or from, I don't know, from Berlin. We have our own sound, I would say, that we have when we play our melodies or we compose our songs. I think it's a very strong thing.
But the thing is that in Poland, when you go to north, to Gdańsk, for example, people in Gdańsk plays different than people on the south. It's something in it. There is a sea, and in the south is more mountains around. So music is different.
One of the guys in the audience commented that your music sounds like it was inspired, some of your music sounds like it was inspired by electrical household appliances, like a washing machine, etc., etc. The electric stuff. Is it?
I don't know, but when I was studying in Copenhagen, I had a teacher who really asked me if I can play my saxophone and believe that I'm some different instrument. Like play this note. If you were how would you play this note? If you have imagined that you are a violin player, how would you play this note if you imagine that you have to blend it together with a trombone? How would you play this note if you imagine that you are sound of a train or whatever? So working with imagination is a big deal for me.
Okay, lastly, you mentioned the sabich, which is a big thing in it.
I just wanted to say that that this whole concept that I told you before was brought to the school by Ed Thigpen, by the drummer who played with Oscar Peterson trio, who was a teacher at this school like some years ago.
Right. So lastly, I want, before we say goodbye, I just want to mention that you mentioned the sabich in Tel Aviv. Actually, I think the last time we met, it was in this vegan pizza place next to the club where Yeji and Marcin was playing 2 years ago.
Amazing.
And but you need to know that you should come to Israel, and sabich is a big thing in Israel, not as big as hummus, but it's a big thing in Israel, and you get at least 5 or 6 or maybe 10 places that will say that they have the best sabich, and so you need to come for a longer period of time in order to try every one of them.
Yeah, I know hummus is a very big thing, but I think I make a very good hummus myself, and sabich is very hard for me to copy.
It is. Anyways, guys, I want to congratulate you on your concert. Thank you so much. And hopefully next time we're going to meet is going to be in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem, my hometown, and do it in person.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for the
much.
invitation, and very nice seeing you and all the audience. We could really feel them.
Perfect. Guys, have a nice evening. It's a great ending to our first Polish Jazz Festival in Tel Aviv, and happy Jewish New Year's, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So thank you.
Okay, that's it. We finished our recording.
Thank you very much.